You're listening to Rewilding Humanity, the podcast for those who've walked through the fire and came back with medicine. I'm Krysta, artist, plant alchemist, and a woman initiated by illness, grief, and spirit. Here, we rise from collapse, reclaim our wild, and remember who the hell we are. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Rewilding Humanity. This is a big one. This is so full circle, you guys. Wow. So I've done a couple of episodes now talking about what happened to me personally after I discovered that I was in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, and the amount of feedback and people reaching out around this topic has just really highlighted how important it is. So today's episode is with Dr. Nay. She is the real life ex-wife of the Wolf of Wall Street. And we are going to be talking about the psychology of narcissistic abuse, the trauma bond, and what it actually takes to break free. Now, something really interesting happened after this recording. So, when did we record this? I guess it would have been in September. So it's been a couple of months, and it was the exact same day as this recording, later in the afternoon. And I received a message from the person who I was previously in a relationship with and suffered harm from. His ex-wife reached out to me and let me know that he was criminally charged. So if you haven't heard the rest of that story, I suggest you do. It's pretty intense. I talk about it on Patreon. So there is a link in the bio if you want to have a listen. But it's a lot. If you listen to the first episode, that was pretty intense, but there was a lot more that unraveled. And what was really profound about what this woman told me was that she thanked me for advocating for us both. And that was huge. So essentially, my ex had been harassing this woman while I was dating him. I didn't know. And he had a hearing coming up for vandalizing her vehicle. And she had been told not to show up to this hearing because it was likely just going to be a slap on the wrist, and he'd have to pay for towing expenses. And then all of a sudden she finds out that he's been charged. And she's like, oh my gosh, Krysta, like, I think this is because of you. Because what I did was I documented everything that had happened between him and I and pieced together something that essentially showed that this wasn't a one-time incident, that there was a pattern happening here. So I had offered this documentation. This is what I used to go to the police and to a judge to try to get something like a restraining order. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to give this to her for her lawyer because I know that there's some upcoming stuff. And from what she says, she thinks it really made a difference. So what this has done is put this person on probation. For there's no contact for her, which is great because he's been stalking and harassing her. And to be honest, like, just to have the system fucking pay attention and realize that these people are harmful, because it's hard to detect, right? Like, they can be extremely charming and seem like really normal people, right? Like, that's what I had thought for several months until the mask dropped. So I wanted to tell this story because this literally, I found all of this out right after this episode was recorded. And I'm like, holy shit, the power of speaking up is, I don't know. It just feels like I got a little bit of justice. Yeah. Anytime I can support another woman, like, my experience was shitty, but it's like, I don't want this happening to anybody, anywhere. And it happens all the time, you guys. So this is a really important episode. I'm really looking forward to you guys meeting Dr. Nay. She's really sweet. And it was actually nice unpacking my situation with her because she's like, oh, it seems like this guy's actually worse than what you originally thought. I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, well, whatever. Don't have to deal with them anymore. Yeah. And if you want to hear the full story, I just encourage you to go to Patreon and check that out. I do bonus episodes every month in that portal. I'm actually planning a little series on cults. And I'm going to start recording next week. That'll be some interesting information. Oh gosh. Yeah. I've lived such a wild life, and I've been in a few situations that, well, have been in the mix of a literal cult, some of them more figurative, but definitely still very culty. And yeah, I think it's just an important topic to cover. So I'll be talking about that there as well. And you can only get those full episodes inside the Patreon. So if you'd like to support the podcast, I'd really appreciate that. It's a great way to support the show. You can also visit magicmaven.com to explore my new ritual boxes. I have some beautiful handmade apothecary and some really beautiful jewelry and things that I have created that would be such a beautiful gift at this time of year. So if you feel called, check it out. Every purchase helps me keep this work alive and independent. So without further ado, let's get into this conversation with Dr. Nay. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Nay. I've been so looking forward to meeting you. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Oh, I felt so compelled to reach out to you. I had to do a deep dive recently on narcissism after was blindsided in a relationship that ended a couple of months ago.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, it was quite the unveiling and fascinating on many levels, extremely painful, very, very disturbing. And I wanted to understand what was happening and what I was saying.
Yeah.
So, I'm following all of these narcissist threads on Instagram and all of this stuff. And then you showed up and I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to have a chance to speak with you. So thank you so much for being here. You have so much experience
Yes.
in this realm. Why don't we dive into that a little bit? I'd love to hear just a little bit of your intro and your journey and let the audience know why you are such an incredible expert in this realm.
Yes. So, you know, when I was 22, 23 years old, I entered into the quintessential trauma bond with my ex-husband, Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. But now you have to remember back then, all those years ago, over 25 years ago, nobody was talking about narcissism. Nobody was talking about trauma bonds. I mean, not even, I was in therapy because I put myself right into therapy because I was like, as soon as I met him, I was like, I can't handle this guy. She wasn't even talking to me about it. So I went into this relationship, open-hearted, wanting to love, fell madly in love, or so I thought I met my soulmate. And like most trauma bonds, it was quick and furious. Engaged in 6 months, married 6 months later. But then I was trapped, right? Because I was all of a sudden his mask fell. So I call the two masks that the pathological lover wears, Dirty John and Romeo. So initially they're Romeo and the mask was their Dirty John. And I was like, what the hell happened? Where's Prince Charming? He's screaming and yelling at me now. And his face is in the soup due to drugs. And he's accusing me of cheating on him when, of course, I wasn't. I was madly in love and a young girl. So I didn't know what was happening. He was coercing me, telling me, if you don't marry me, I won't date you. So all these terms that I'm like flippantly naming to you right now, I had no names for them back then. But I stayed with him as what often happens at trauma bonds and ended up having 2 children with him. But as I lived with him, like similar to this sort of relationship, the abuse escalates, the emotional manipulations, the verbal abuse, until finally he got arrested. And that was my ticket to ride. So he had to wear an ankle bracelet because he got arrested on 11 counts of money laundering. And so his ankle bracelet was my freedom.
Wow.
And I got to leave. And I moved to California with my 2 kids, restarted our lives. And at 38, 39, went back to school to get my master's. I got my PhD at 45. And while I was doing all this education, because I wanted to become a therapist, because I believe therapy had saved me, he was writing a book and making a movie. So I thought I had escaped it, and then it came right back.
That's so frustrating.
But it's okay, because now I get to use it.
That's true. But I mean, to have your personal life in your story, because I'm sure that how you were portrayed in the movie was not completely correct, right? Like you didn't get out of the story. Hi, friends. I've got something exciting for you. Rewilding Humanity Unfiltered is now on Patreon with a 7-day free trial. This is a portal where you'll get bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes updates, early access to new content, and a private community where we go deeper into the conversations from the show. Supporting the show is like buying me one latte a month, and it makes such a big difference in keeping this work alive and growing. So if the podcast has been meaningful to you, I'd love for you to try it out. Just hit the link in the show notes to start your free 7-day trial today. I can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, no. It was his narrative. It was his perspective. He wrote the book. They wrote that book and made it into a movie. And yeah, it was incredibly frustrating because having to have endured what I call a Greek tragedy got splashed for the whole world's entertainment. But luckily, I had done so much work on myself. I had really surrendered into the process. I was like, this is bigger than me. And I just surrendered and let it go. It was okay because the way they portrayed me was just like a young girl who fell madly in love with a crazy guy and was trying to protect her kids.
Yeah.
So it was okay.
Yeah, a big part of that truth.
Yeah, so it didn't show the depth of my character, of course. It didn't show my perspective, but I was okay with it.
Yeah, I feel thankful myself for the years of personal growth that I had under my belt.
Right.
When this relationship that I was in kind of blew up, when the mask fell, because it was the same thing for me, right? Like came in hot and heavy at a time where I was quite vulnerable. I was dealing with some health issues, and it was like every minute of the day wanting to be spent with me and, talking about marriage right away and all of the stuff, right? And they kind of portray themselves to be like this perfect person that's going to solve all of your problems.
Right.
And when the mask drops and you find out about the infidelities and this cruelty starts to come out, it's just it's such a shock to the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been in situations before where I don't know, like this person I feel very much is a pathological individual. In the past, I've had some gnarly relationships that shook me quite deeply and harmed my nervous system. But I was able to bounce back more quickly from this and didn't really get caught in that loop. I was only in this relationship for about 8 months. And I know that there's so many people, women, that get caught in these situations for years. And then they end up with PSD and so many different health
Yes.
issues. Yeah, I mean, I just want to unpack more about like what this is exactly and like
Yeah.
how many people are walking around like this. Like that's the thing that freaks me out the most, you know?
Yeah. Well, so a trauma bond is a toxic dysfunctional relationship between two emotionally attached people. Now, you're not going to have a trauma bond with the barrister at Starbucks, right? Or the guy in your dry cleaning store. You have to be emotionally attached. And what separates it just from a toxic dysfunctional relationship is that one of the partners, the pathological partner, wants power and control over their lover.
Mhm.
And there are two conditions that have to be apparent for it to be a trauma bond. The first one is a power imbalance. And how does somebody get the power? Well, they get it because simply that you love them. It can be because you emotionally depend on them, you financially depend on them. Maybe they have more resources. Also, in my situation, my ex was very threatening and dominating and intimidating. So I really feared him.
Mhm.
So that's how he had power. And
Mhm.
so that's the first condition. The second one is what we call intermittent reinforcement. And that's a behavioral pattern where 70% of the time they're dirty John, they're cruel, controlling, betraying, lying, manipulating, gaslighting. But 30% of the time they're Romeo. And that's when they're kind and generous and helpful. And so that behavioral pattern of intermittent reinforcement is the most addictive behavioral pattern. So we get addicted to this person because the research shows animal trainers that use intermittent reinforcement, the animals bond to that trainer 230% more than just straight kindness. So those are the two conditions that have to be apparent. And that's why it's so hard to leave because you're always hoping that that 30% is going to come back. And sometimes that 30% does come around. And you're like, oh, there he is. Okay, my nervous system is okay. I'm going to stay.
Interesting. See, in my case, it was, well, I mean, maybe because we weren't together for very long, but in my case, it felt like the opposite, where 70% of the time it was like really normal and something would happen. But this is where I'm wondering about the different types of narcissism, right? Because there's like
Yes.
overt or vulnerable, which I kind of feel might be the situation that I was facing. Yeah. And is this like a mental illness? Is it, I mean, I've heard one person say that people with narcissism literally don't have as much like gray matter in their brain. Like, I don't know. What
Oh,
were your thoughts on that?
well, what I say is that they're not just narcissists. I wish they were just narcissists. That would make our lives a lot easier. There's a lot of misinformation on social media, right? So, what I call them in my book, Run Like Hell, is that they're a pathological lover. They are pathological because they will use, harm, exploit, and betray anyone to get their needs met for money, power, pleasure, and status. And to me, anybody who will do that is mentally unwell. But they have a lot of different things going on. So there's a term called the dark tetrad.
Yeah.
It's a term that got researched and got published in 2002. And what that describes is it's an umbrella term for people that have personality traits that are malevolent intentions. Because what really makes a person also pathological again is the motivation. What is their intention? And so under the umbrella of dark tetrad is psychopathy. There is Machiavellianism, meaning they're highly manipulative. There is narcissism, and there is antisocial personality disorder. And actually, no, and sadism, sorry. So they have sadism. So that's what's under the dark tetrad. But then they have a cluster B, narcissism, borderline, antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. They can have compulsive process disorder, sex or gambling. They have high impulsivity. They can have substance use. They can have a mood disorder, bipolar or depression. So this is a very multi-layered personality. And not every pathological person has all of these traits, but they usually have many of them woven into their personality. Hence why they're so hard to really figure out or nail.
Yeah.
Because it's a clinical, it's a predatory pathological person, very different than you and I. And I don't know how many are running around out there, but I think a lot. I probably think there's more than there is because of the work I do. But I think all we have to do is look in the news and the media and all the killings and
Totally. Yeah.
so there's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I think you find a lot of people with this disorder in very high up positions, politics.
Well, because
and
but just think about it, they love money and power.
Yeah.
They want control. They're very into image management. And so, yeah, they're drawn to positions of leadership
Mm-hmm.
and they're drawn to power. Their main goal is to have power and control. That is the main number one goal.
Yeah.
Over you, over people at work, over whoever, the company,
Yeah.
And so that's the scary part because it's an abusive power, right? If we think about the priests, that's such an abusive power.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. The good news is we're calling them God.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a really important aspect of all of this. But yeah, it's mind-boggling. Like I think back to, oh gosh, at least a handful of jobs that I've had in the past where leadership was 100% run by a
It's the dark tetrad, I'm sure.
Oh, it's crazy. But the thing that really freaks me out and like what I want to warn people about, because like there are there's people where you can kind of like see that right away, right? And like in those working environments, I was like immediately I knew I was like, okay, these people are not good people. With this individual that I ended up in a predatory relationship with,
Right.
it was like it was a different vibe, obviously, because there was the love bombing and all of that. But I think because he was maybe more of the vulnerable persuasion, it wasn't like as overt.
Yeah.
And
It's trickier to
yeah,
please, for sure.
yeah, it's super frustrating. Do you know are there any stats? I GTP'd it. I always say
Well,
the
we have to remember people. So if we think about it, at the core of the personality is a cluster B personality disorder, right? Meaning that it's a pervasive pattern of being, a way of being in the world and work and in love, right? So what happens is that it's different than a mood disorder. A mood disorder such as depression or anxiety, we want to get rid of it. We don't want it. It's ego dystonic. But a personality disorder is ego-syntonic. So it's part of who they are. They're just like, this is just who I am. They don't want to get rid of it, especially if it's serving them. So they're not running to therapy. They're not in the statistics. So you really can't base how many of them they are on self-reports.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more, with most mental health challenges, we're always focused on how that mental health challenge affects ourselves. With personality disorders, especially cluster Bs, the one that I mentioned, they almost want to call them interpersonality disorders because how much they affect others. So really, there's amazing research by this woman, Dr. Karen Mitchell. I highly recommend you read her thesis. She just came out with it. She's writing a book. And what she did is she interviewed all the people that have been affected by these people to really get a sense of them. And she calls it predatory persistent personality. So I call it pathological lover. So now I call it persistent predatory pathological person. So I'm taking what she says and what I say. But I think there's a lot more than what the research shows because they're not running to therapy.
Yeah.
They're not getting help. So they're not in the statistic.
Or if they are, like in my case, I made sure that he was seeing a therapist as some
Yeah.
things started to come up, and I was like, no, this is not okay. You need to see someone. But I mean, who knows what he was telling this person?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And it's
they,
just to look a certain way, right? Like he was
right. It's
in
an
church groups and all of this stuff, and he wasn't integrating any of that shit. Like just to look a
A
certain
lot
way.
of times they just go to therapy to manipulate, to shut us up,
Yeah.
to manipulate the therapist
Yep.
or to learn psychobabble
Hmm.
and come back with things.
Yeah. I have to tell you about something I created that's been changing people's lives. It's called Rainbow from Mindful Meds. I formulated it with a special saffron extract that has a ton of clinical evidence showing it's as effective as SSRIs for mood support, but without the side effects. The feedback has been insane. More calm, sharper thinking, deeper focus without jitters, and even restful sleep with resilient mornings. One person told us, I'm a machine on this Rainbow. And another said they were actually crying because their brain felt so clear. If you want to experience it for yourself, head to mindfulmeds.io and use the code WILDMIND for 15% off your first order. Details are also in the show notes.
And because look what I learned, you're not respecting my boundary, who knows it. So it's different than you and I. And when you don't have that lens that they do through which to look at the world, it can be very hard to really wrap your mind around it. I mean, it took me years of research, even though I had experienced, and I teach it all over the world, right? To really understand the level of pathology, even in someone that doesn't present, because you don't know what would have happened over time.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing things escalating, get worse.
Totally. Yeah. That's the thing that really freaks me out. And then I started thinking about his ex-wife and like what she must have went through.
Yeah, and then they all say their ex-wives are crazy.
Are crazy. Yeah.
They make them crazy.
Yeah. I recently discovered that he is already engaged to his new victim. It's been 8 weeks.
Okay, that's fast. That's ridiculous.
No. Yeah.
That just shows you right there how pathological somebody is.
I know. But the thing is, it's like what makes me so angry and frustrated is like there's people out there that can just go around harming people because what's going to happen to this woman? I mean, from what I understand, she has a baby. Like, it's so heartbreaking. And they just get to go out there and continue the cycle. Like, the fact
I'm having the conversation, right?
Yeah.
So to raise awareness, to educate. Education is the only key to empowerment so that, anybody who's listening to this or is interested in, oh, that is happening to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you're in it, you second guess yourself all the time because they're gaslighting you, they're manipulating you, they're saying you're the problem because everybody else is the problem, but them.
Yeah. They're always the victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They move from victim, perpetrator to rescuer. So right now he might be rescuer with this woman who has a baby.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. Do you see this disorder in men more than women?
I do, yes. Yeah, it's a disorder because we live in a patriarchy and a lot of times these men feel entitled, they feel superior, and they lack a moral compass.
So is this a learned behavior or is it like trauma?
No, it's biopsychosocial. So a lot of times you were born with it, like antisocial personality disorder. And then depending upon the home that you grow up in, combined with your temperament, combined with the brain you've been given biologically, but then you layer culture on top of it. So it's biopsychosocial.
Right.
Multiple causality.
Right. And I imagine if somebody has a parent who is narcissistic, that would probably ingrain in the children.
Yeah, it can. Or if you have a narcissistic parent, you can just choose to do the total opposite. Again, it depends on your personality, your temperament. If you're born with a dominant temperament, maybe. But if you're born with a more agreeable temperament like me, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And that I've been socialized culturally as women to be people pleasing, appeasing, fawning. I'm not like that anymore, but I'm 57 now. But out of my life, I was like that, right? So it's a mixture of biology, our family of origin, and culture for everybody. How it ends up with the personality that you get.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how the narcissist manipulates in the beginning and like maybe some red flags.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. It's very hard to see the manipulations because, first of all, they hide them. And second of all, you're falling in love. So you have oxytocin and dopamine flooding right through your body, which makes you ignore red flags. And so, one, we just mentioned all their exes are crazy. Why are they crazy? How many drinks do they have on the first date? Are they curious about you? Do they allow you to talk? Now, sometimes they're curious because they're mind mapping you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to unpack that.
Yeah. Sometimes they can be curious because they're mind mapping you because they want to understand you so they can control you more.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what happened in my case.
Yeah. And then there's, of course, the love bombing, which is, it's not just gifts and flowers, it's also obsessive attention. Need text 10 times a day.
Yeah.
Recently, who's dating, she was like, the guy wanted to FaceTime me every night. She was like, no. Right? So it comes in different shapes or forms. And I have a saying, if it feels too good to be true, it probably is.
Mm.
And also, when you go out on dates, as much as you're looking for red flags, dig deep, get curious. If somebody tells you something, oh, my ex is crazy. Why? Why is she crazy? I wonder what, like, start to get curious. Like my ex, he said, oh, I'm married, but I'm separated. I should have really dug deeper.
Yeah.
When I was 22, 23, I was like, oh, convey, I should be more inquisitive about it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely reading you to figure out how you're wired. And then they twin a lot. Oh my God, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Me too, right? I love pizza. I love sushi. Oh, you like Greek food? You love plays. Like, then they start to really twin and mirror you. And that feels really good.
Yeah.
Because you feel like, oh my God, somebody gets me.
Yeah. The mirroring is really, really weird. Because I mean, obviously, I didn't see this in the beginning, but in the end, it was odd. It was almost like this jealousy where, I mean, I think this is why he discarded. So in this case, that's what happened.
Yeah.
But I think it was because I was getting healthier. We were away on a trip where more attention was on me than him. And I think he was on his phone texting women the entire time, which I found out later. Anyway, but I noticed like on this retreat, we were creating some content and stuff. And I noticed him starting to make little jabs and like making fun of it.
Yeah.
But then he would go and do it himself.
Well,
Right.
there's narcissistic rivalry.
Uh,
They have rivalry and they're incredibly envious.
yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then so if you're getting attention, then he wants, attention and more supply.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the discard happens. His excuse was, I've never been so hurt so badly in my life, not knowing at all what the hell he was talking about. And your words don't match your actions. Just a bunch of crazy.
Just psychobabble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably learned to therapy.
Yeah.
So he probably learned in therapy. And you're like, wait, what are you even talking about? Oh, he did you a favor.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It was just so crazy making. He did do the whole thing where he tried to suck me back in and whatever. And I was just like, no. And the universe just kept giving me like more signs and more revelations where I was just like, oh my God, it just unraveled.
Why?
I was just like, holy shit, like this guy is not what I thought.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's scary. And I feel so deeply for people that end up in a situation like this because I know how painful it is and how terrifying it is to, you share a bed in your heart with somebody for doesn't matter how long it is. And then to just be treated so cruelly and find out that they are not what you thought at all is really, really terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really is. But you can leave.
Yes.
Not because I left.
Yeah.
I work with plenty of women that leave. I just helped leave up to 35 years this week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you are going to leave, though, I have a rule. Once you decide, okay, I'm in a trauma, and they have radical acceptance over this, you can never let them see you coming. You must radically accept that, but then plan behind the scenes. If you're not married, doesn't take as much plan, right? But have somewhere safe to go. Have all your ducks in a row before you leave. If you are married, you need to get a lawyer, come to a trauma therapist or a support group. I have a support group for women to help them make sure all your documents, right, are organized, have all your important documents, get your own credit card, get your own bank account. Financially aligned, go to Walmart, Target, get gift cards, right? Because you have to really plan behind the scenes. And then once you're ready, you do it.
Yeah. I love that part about your book because I've read a few and yours is the only one that actually gives really good step-by-step information on how to run like hell. What's the name of the book?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's important to name who the pathological person is. It's important to name the tactics because you want validation for what you've experienced. But then what?
Yeah.
Then you leave, and then you want to heal.
Yeah.
Because healing doesn't happen by focusing on them.
Yeah.
Healing happens by turning the mirror back on you. Who are you? What do you need? What are your personality traits? What are your attachment patterns? How did your developmental trauma shape you? You have to become a real expert on yourself because you have 3 sets of symptoms: cognitive dissonance, loss of self, and CPTSD. And there's a lot of healing work that goes in afterwards.
Yeah.
You were there for 8 months, so of course that's not going to be as extreme as someone who's there 8 years, 18 years, 28 years.
Yeah, totally.
But you can imagine 18, 28, it's,
You'd be, I mean,
I think we
even
connect back to your authentic self
yeah,
and start to rebuild your identity.
absolutely. And I mean, I can imagine that somebody who's in that sort of situation would just have zero self-confidence.
Oh, zero, because they break it down.
Yes.
Instill self-doubt, break down your confidence, want to lower self-esteem, micromanaging, disparagement, insulting, because you're easier to control.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So
But you can rebuild. But you can really rebuild. And that's why I wrote my book and,
yeah.
I have my community, and I've seen hundreds of women rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. It's doable. What I thought was really cool in your book was you talked about the traits of survivors. So I think a lot of times, especially women, we can kind of, bring things back onto ourselves and be like, I was the issue.
Yes.
I know for me, I went down the whole rabbit hole of the empath narcissist thing. Okay, what do I need to do to fucking fix myself so that I never attract one of these babies again?
That's why I know. That's why it sometimes drives me crazy because with the empath narcissist thing, it's not really scientifically proven, but what is proven is what I write about in my book is the 5-factor model of personality. So in 2019, I read Sandra Brown's book, Women Who Love Psychopath, and it changed my life. And I always have to shout out to her because when I left my ex, everybody was like, you're a codependent and you're an addict. And just like you, I was like, I'm codependent. I gotta fix myself. I gotta fix myself. I was responsible for his abuse and addiction. Now, were there not important things that I could learn about myself? For sure, but I was not responsible for that abuse. And what she says, because she worked with tons of women, and for a long, many, many, many years, 3 decades, she gave them all this personality test, and it spells the word ocean. It spells openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And you can take the assessments on my website if you want, drnae.com, NAE.com. And it measures each personality trait from low to very low, average to high to very high. What she discovered is 70% of the women that she worked with scored high to very high in agreeableness and conscientiousness.
Me.
And who scores very high in both? Me.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, I'm a therapist, right? I have empathy. I'm loyal. I'm tolerant. I'm pro-social. I love relationships. I'm conscientious. That's why I got my PhD. I'm orderly. I'm dutiful. I have integrity. I'm going to see things through. All great traits in life. With a pathological person, they get weaponized.
Mm.
So that's why I wrote my book, was to take the stigma off of the victim.
Yeah.
Really wanting to turn its head. And that really helps, because when you see that, now not everybody scores high in those two, right? Then I talk about women who are more dependent, or women who have, a lot of severe trauma growing up, developmental trauma. But that was the old belief, was that you had parents who abused you, you ended up in an abusive marriage. That's not true. Or
Mm.
abusive relationship. Anybody and everybody can be conned by a con artist.
So that's the big takeaway. It's like this can happen to anyone.
Anybody. I work with women who are billionaires to women I'm putting in domestic violence shelters.
Mm.
Doesn't matter. Women of all ethnicities, all races, all socioeconomic status, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Don't
I
feel
mean,
shame if you're in it. Don't,
yeah, it's not your fault.
it's not, no, it is your responsibility to get out and to heal.
Yeah. And so this is like, yeah. So this next part, like I had when I spoke out about what happened to me about a week after it happened, which was really hard, but there was something in me that just said I had to do it.
Okay.
And I had women reaching out to me, crying, telling me about their own situations, about relationships that they're currently in, that they don't know how to get out of. So I think your tips are fantastic because you really do need to make a plan of action, especially if you're living with that individual when there's children who are involved. Like you have to plan it out because these are crazy people and like
You can't, I'm not going to let you control me anymore.
yeah, because they're gonna fight, they're gonna kick, scream. I mean, I'm pretty sure I had my car vandalized already. I know he still stalks his ex-wife and does crazy shit to her. I think speaking out for some reason maybe has helped, you know, alleviate the aftermath. I don't know what your thoughts are that around exposing people. And again, I never name names, but still, it's like,
And it's I need. Yeah,
yeah,
you're not
yeah,
just something. Good for you.
thanks. It's been hard, but again, it just felt like something that I had to do. I was so disillusioned, but also pissed off and just not wanting it to happen to other people. And then realizing how often it does happen when I have people coming to me and telling me about their stories. I'm like, this is bullshit. This is not okay.
It's an epidemic.
And then what the hell do you do afterwards? Because so for me, I ended up trying to get a what is it called? It's like a restraining order, something.
Peace bond.
Yeah. So I had discovered his ex-wife reached out to me. We connected. She told me about his theft and breaking into her home and vandalism and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea.
He sounds a lot more overt than covert with that behavior.
Yeah, so maybe it was just very hidden. Yeah. So she recommended that I go and do this. And he was saying some crazy shit around how our adventures are just beginning. And I'm like, no. Well, like, they're ended. Stay the hell away from me. Absolutely not. And so I try to get this protection order. And even his ex-wife told me, she's just like, I have tried this so many times and they won't give me one. And even for me, the judge was like, well, he sounds like a shitty guy and we can go through with this, but it's going to be this whole lengthy thing and da 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 da. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait and just see if it gets worse, then I'll come back. I've just been documenting everything.
Documenting is key.
Yes. But I mean, the legal system, like, it's so interesting because what I'm learning is that emotional and psychological abuse can actually be more damaging than physical abuse.
And coercive control.
Yeah. And I mean, these people can continue to try to ruin your life months, years, decades after the fact. And there's nothing in the legal system to protect victims, which I just find bizarre.
Well, yeah. So I'll speak to that a bit. So, first of all, coercive control in the States now is recognized in 8 states.
Okay.
So, as part of emotional and psychological abuse, right? Coercing, pressuring somebody, by emotional abuse, verbal attacks, threatening, dominating, intimidating, instilling fear in them. Now it's criminalized in, I think, Australia, and Great Britain, and maybe even Scotland. So that's changing a little bit. But that's what you said is so important. It's so important to document. But let's think about it. If these people want power and control, where do you think they end up? In the government, in the judicial, as judges.
Interesting.
Not all of them, but a lot of them do. So tonight, actually, I'm going to an event in New York City. They have a term for it called lawfare. And this is when the predator really uses the legal system to continue post-separation abuse.
Yes, and I see that that's exactly what's happening in his.
That's what happens. So we're on to it.
Yeah.
Oh, I have all my peers educating judges, educating lawyers, the ones that want to get educated. But no, it's a problem.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
legal system does not protect us in the way that it should. I got lucky because my ex got arrested.
Yeah.
That was not my story.
Yeah.
Many women that I deal with, it is.
And I think in a lot of cases too, I mean, they're so good at spinning stories and looking and appearing one way to the public. And they're going around telling that the mom is abusive and crazy and da 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 da, all of this stuff. And then she ends up getting reprimanded for it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's wild.
Well, the statistics here, in fact, I just wrote it 20 to 50% of women who report abuse, I think they're like, their children almost get taken away.
Yeah. Wow. Because they'll just stop at nothing for.
They'll stop at nothing.
Yeah.
They'll stop at nothing. So that's why that's why I wrote my book. Because that's why we're having this conversation. You have to educate women everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Information into their hands.
My goodness. Do you ever worry about like backlash or whatever from your ex because of speaking out?
You know, he's tried a few times through my children. Can you believe your mother's doing this? I said, oh, is Jordan my victim now, is he? Oh, isn't that funny? I said, Jordan, you wrote a book, you made a movie.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything you didn't say in your own movie and book.
Yeah.
I just get to say it. And I told my kids, and my kids are all 100% behind me. My daughter's a therapist. She's 32. My son's amazing. He lives in Los Angeles. They said, the train has left the station. You know, goddesses, whatever we want to say, put me through all of this. And I'm making meaning. I'm turning my pain into my purpose, and there's no stopping me. So everybody can suck it. That's it. You know, when my kids get it, I stood strong and he backed down, and it's all good. He wasn't stopping me, so it didn't.
Yeah.
He's annoyed.
Oh, sure.
I did not care.
Yeah.
I didn't like it in the movie when you showed a lie of you snorting cocaine off of my breasts. Like,
yeah.
But I didn't tell the kids not to talk to you. But, you know, we're different.
Yeah.
So I don't care.
Okay. I love it. Yeah. Because I always worry about like, you know, speaking out, worrying about like grammar.
And he can't say it's defamation because of what he's written.
Okay.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other people, it's different. You know, if you say something about your ex and you're listening to this, like they could come after you. It could be harder to prove that it's true. You know, if you look at Jeff and Amber Heard, right? That's the prime example. So please be careful. My situation is just different. My ex-man, what can mean nothing.
Yeah. No, I never name names or anything, but yeah. I mean, at this point it's like there's nothing I can do about it. I am devastated that the abuse cycle continues with other women.
No.
All I can do is raise awareness. And I'm so grateful that there's people like you that are speaking to people in, you know, the judicial system to try to make some change.
I'm trying. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much. I feel like we covered so much ground already. Oh, actually, the one thing that I want to mention at the end here. I love how you name the term post-traumatic growth. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so the research shows that victims of this sort of intimate partner violence, coercive control, relational trauma, 75% of them go on to experience post-traumatic growth. the reason why I think that happens, the post-traumatic growth is you become better than you were before. Maybe your spirituality deepens. Maybe you get to know yourself better. Maybe you feel more confident and competent after you've done some work, right? Maybe your relationships are more meaningful. And so why I believe that happens is because these relationships, and as you mentioned, being in yours a short period of time, are so shocking to the system. They crack us wide open. And so what I always say in a funny way, the wolf was my Buddha, as the ridiculousness of his behavior for me to have such an extreme examination of self. And that's what happens to most of the women I work with. And so, yeah, you can go on to lead a better life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess the gen to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I talk about a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
Individual that has gone through many initiations, a lot of dark nights.
Initiation. That's right.
And it's growth, right? Like it all leads to a better place in it. Yeah.
And that's not toxic positivity. It's like, take that perspective. I've just seen it happen, that it will happen. Probably whether you like it or not, and you'll.
I think that's a lovely note to leave on this episode. Is there anything else that you think the audience needs to know?
No, just that, if you're listening to this and this is what's happening to you right now, look for the helpers. They're out there. Get my book, my website, Nadine.com. So many free resources, so many trauma bond assessment, pathological lover assessment. I also started an online community called Thriver, where for $30 a month, I run 4 support groups. I teach my course. My book is a course. I bring in expert speakers. Just, there's so many resources. Reach out for them. Just don't be afraid. Reach out for them. You do not have to stay stuck and entrapped forever, I promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone who's listening, make sure you connect with Dr. Nay. She is an incredible resource when it comes to narcissistic abuse. And she's really helped me on my journey. So thank you so much.
I'm so glad. Thank you for letting me know.
If this episode cracked you open, good. Share it far and wide so we can reach more people who are done pretending and ready to come home to themselves. And remember, if you leave a review on Apple Podcasts or tap the stars on Spotify, you'll be entered into my monthly draw for a bottle of my medicinal herbal oil. It's my way of saying thank you for helping this work reach more people who need it the most. I'll announce winners right here on the show. To dive deeper into my world, explore Wildcrafted Apothecary and Sacred Art at magicmaven.com. Discover new tools for nervous system healing at mindfulmeds.io, or bring your vision to life with me at the Brand Bruja. All the links and more are waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time, stay wild, stay rooted, and remember, you were made for this.